is Richie Contartesi with Seven Figure Commissions, a series of the Next Play podcast. And today we have a very special guest, someone who has worked in the insurance space since 2013, starting in State Farm, opened up his own office with Country Financial in 2018, acquired a book of business at Mid Country Insurance in 2022, is an independent agent, lives in Buffalo, not New York, Buffalo, Minnesota.
Right.
Hosts the podcast, the Buffalo Community Show.
Podcast.
Is that right?
Buffalo Community Podcast.
Podcast. Yep. And is in the office on a Friday late afternoon of a holiday weekend because he cares about his clients, he cares about his business, and we're lucky to have him on. Mark, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to this.
Cool. Awesome. Well, look, man, let's start with some of the good things and the things that you're doing really, really well to get you in the position that you are today, right? And having the success that you are. So real quick, let's jump into it. What inspired you? I know you came from the captive, you're an independent now. What inspired you to acquire the book of business?
Sure. So, well, first of all, like I'm not gonna run away from the fact that is a bigger book of business than I had before. So we work for a living, and we bring home a paycheck, and so it was a bigger paycheck. First of all, coming from State Farm, where I got licensed, I worked for a great agent, had a bunch of great mentors, and unexpectedly fell in love with the business, like so many other insurance agents that I talked to. Kind of realized like, hey, I kind of want to do this for myself now. And another agency opportunity with Country Financial opened up in my hometown, and I just went to work. I was my first client at Country Financial, head down and trying to grow a book of business and grow a team. And then unexpectedly, a phone call came, and it was with Mid Country Insurance to take over this book of business with an independent agency, which, having not experienced the independent side, and the amount of people that, hey, can I quote your insurance sometime? I'd love to give you a second opinion on it. They said, well, do you work with just one carrier, or do you have a whole bunch of carriers? I said, well, it's just one. And you could just kind of see the disinterest set in, where it's like, I only do, so it was, independent world was always a curiosity of mine. It was never, I wouldn't say it was I got to get to independent someday, but I guess a bigger paycheck, experiencing the independent world, and quite honestly, also, I'm not a great business owner, and I like being an insurance agent, and I like selling insurance. I don't like keeping track of my receipts. I don't like all of the business ownership side of things. And so having a book of business through I operate out of a bank, and being able to get back to just I'm an insurance agent. I sell insurance. I help people, and it allows me to do all of the things I loved before in a different setting that I think caters to my strengths a little better.
I like that. And was there something also along the lines of like you get all of these clients as well as a part of it?
100%. Yeah, like without a doubt. That's certainly a factor in a decision like that. And so, you kind of get in these phases in life where, like I told them when they called me, I said, hey, I'm really not looking to make a change here. I'm happy. There's pride in business ownership. But we can have a conversation. And it's so like everything, like any insurance transaction, it starts with the conversation. And the more you like what you hear, the more it kind of shakes you out of like having your blinders on, head down, working to like, this might be something I should consider. And here I am talking to you.
So you're still in a business ownership role right now, right?
Right.
So how
Yeah.
does someone like who hates all the things that go along, like how are you able to keep up with all those things and also, be able to sell and service your clients and grow the business?
Yeah. I think it's just the resources and the team that I kind of inherited that I've been able to like step
Yeah, how
into.
big
And
is your team? Tell me about your team.
sure. So I have we just brought on a new service person, but that service person replaced somebody, and so we have a service team of 4, and then, well, actually 5. We have a commercial specialist and then 3 personal line specialists that handle a lot of the I guess you'd call it non-income generating type of activity, and
Yep.
allowing me to really focus on the things that I enjoy doing. Quite frankly, nothing makes me more happy than when a client doesn't ask for me, and I think a lot of agents would agree that if you can develop this relationship with my service person to where you view that person as your agent, that to me is a sign of like this is great. This is working well and accomplishing exactly what I would want to accomplish.
Awesome. Okay, so you have 5 service and yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Service
Yep.
and yourself. Wow.
Right. Yep.
So so what's your process for acquiring clients? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So I'm constantly working with bank tellers, with the staff here at the bank, to, just kind of, a lot of them consider themselves to not be salespeople, which I try to help people understand regardless of your personality. I think there's what people think sales is. And then my view is that sales is service. And if you are working for a company that you believe in and you're working, in an environment that you're happy with, sales is strictly taking care of people. And I don't need them to sell a policy. I just need them to open up the door to an opportunity, right? My favorite question to ask people is if their auto insurance premiums are in line. Are your rates in line? You aren't going to get too many people to say yes, right? You'll get a lot of, I don't know, or but the answer is rarely yes. And they open that door a crack to give you an opportunity to simply follow up with, hey, would you ever be open to a second opinion? Can we take a look at it and just make sure that your needs are being met for a fair price? So leveraging the bank clients is a huge source of, where I'm getting my opportunities from. But then also community involvement is a big passion of mine. So being involved with the Chamber of Commerce, being involved with local youth sports teams, coaching baseball, youth wrestling, coach middle school football, and then hosting the local community podcast so that people are having a little bit of an understanding of who I am and how I operate. A lot of people that I come across have some sort of, either we know each other well or they've seen the podcast and they have just a general idea of how I am operating. And then, of course, your referrals are always going to be a big source too.
Awesome. And how long have you been operating that way for?
I would say probably, you get into the business at like my first 5 years at State Farm, it was probably more traditional route of like calling it the grind or whatever. It's your ex states, it's your former clients who left, it's the quoted but you didn't write them. I would kind of that traditional route of hammering phones, hitting the pavement, doing those things. And for me, that I give a ton of credit to people who find joy in that, who find satisfaction in that. And I think early in my career I did, because my background was prior to being an insurance agent, I was a local trucker. I was couriering around the Twin Cities, picking up and delivering freight. And you get to a point where it's like, I don't want to do this forever. Like it was supposed to be for 3 months, and it turned into 5 years. And in that time, I got married and had kids. And again, you kind of get stuck in this mindset of, I got to keep working and I got to keep bringing home a paycheck, right? Until one day you're like, I can't do this forever. And so I don't even remember what question I was answering, but
no, we were talking about how you were acquiring your customers.
Yeah.
And doing it this way versus, the more traditional leads.
Yeah.
My question with that is, or go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So I think it just comes out of, maintaining sanity and continuing to enjoy what I do for a living. And if I'm making phone calls, it's because I'm not doing other things better. So if I can continue to do things that I like to do well, developing relationships, being involved, and seeking out those opportunities, I don't know if organic is the right word, or just in a way that I prefer to do it. That's how I continue to like showing up to work every day.
Yeah. Where do you want to take this agency? Like, where do you see it in 5 years from now? Because you're basically like, you got your podcast, you got kids, you're coaching sports, your relationships, you're in the bank. You got a lot going on, and you're doing a lot to build relationships. Obviously, you're acquiring customers. Like where do you see this going 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now?
Right. So this is where I struggle, because I'm on a podcast. I'm on the 7-figure commission podcast right now. So my immediate reaction was, I'm not opposed to that. I would love that. But I don't go to bed every night and wake up every morning striving for that. And is that what I should say? But
whatever you want, man. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Yeah, steady growth. And so I would love to have a sub producer in 5 years, and somebody to go out and produce and help me bring on more clients. And so and then also just the satisfaction that I would get from finding another me, finding somebody who's maybe stuck in a rut in life, who is looking for another opportunity and has no idea that insurance might be their passion. I don't know anybody, and I know quite a few insurance agents that grew up wanting to do this for a living. We just we fell into it, and lo and behold, we ended up liking it.
Everybody I talk to almost says that.
Yeah.
In the insurance space, almost every
exactly.
Their thing.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm always trying to tell people in a cool, in a way.
Go ahead.
What do I? It's funny. What do you do, Mark? What do you do for a living? Well, I sell insurance, right? It's kind of lame, right? So you try to figure out a way to not. I have a friend who said that when he sits on an airplane and he doesn't want to talk to the person next to him, he just tells them he sells insurance, and that pretty much is a pretty good way to avoid the "what do you do for a living" conversation.
Why not say I protect people?
Exactly. I help people grow and protect wealth, right?
I mean, I feel like that's pretty fair, right?
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question, because you said something there and it stood out. And when you were talking about your CSRs, right, and that feeling you get when someone calls in and they ask for them, what about when you have agents in place, that feeling you get when they're enrolling people and building the company without you doing those calls?
Right. That thrills me. I mean, that to get to that point where it's you show up one day like I used to do for the State Farm agent I worked for, who left town to go to his condo in Colorado to go skiing, and you can tell him, I wrote 5 new households while you were gone, right? I mean, that's a dream, right? I grew the book. I didn't. The book grew while I was gone, and they're proud, and I'm happy, and everybody wins, right? And so like that would be something that would 5 years from now, that's what I want. I want a team. Yeah. I want to, because I'm pretty confident that there'll come a day when my passion, I don't know, when my desire to chase and grow the book isn't going to be as strong as it is now. I hope that's not the case, but I mean, everybody kind of hits that point where it's like, you want to take the foot off the gas a little bit, but if you can have somebody kind of filling in where you want to back off a little bit, would be just a dream. That'd be awesome.
Well, and it wouldn't even be necessarily having to back off, it shouldn't change your passion. It would just be instilling what you're doing in others to be able to help more people. Basically, if you're only doing it yourself, you're limiting the number of people. And you already know you provide such an exceptional service, and you have, like, you know, to have the CSR team size that you have with as a solo producer, I mean, you obviously service, you know, and I think you would just be able to touch more people.
Yeah. And to do have a service person who is, you know, does have those agent aspirations. And so, you know, grooming that person into, you know, somebody who you could pull off the service side to groom into that producer role, is on the horizon. So that's something.
Yeah. And it would truly allow you to do what you do best, which is creating content with the podcast and being at, you know, coaching kids and being in the, and you won't have to worry about necessarily also producing.
Right.
So if it's okay, can I ask you just a quick question around that? Like, I know you said in 5 years, but what's holding you back from potentially getting that process started sooner rather than later?
I would, nothing. True. Like it's just a matter. Yeah, there really is. That process can start, and, you know, should start sooner to say, hey, like let's get this started and get the production piece going. So, so that 5-year time frame, as far as in 5 years I want to have this, I would say in 5 years I want that to be a well-oiled machine, and and
a full-fledged team.
Exactly. Right.
Cool, man. Yeah, and it's just spreading what you're doing amongst them and just being able to touch way more people in the community.
For sure.
And then obviously, like, the fact that you're already producing content and you're doing those things is a leg up, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you feel like would be, you know, obviously we talk about next play and focusing on the play. What's the next play to get you to that point? Obviously you're really good at what you do. In the next step of building this potential team and what that would look like, what would be, you know, and the organization that goes around with that, right? What do you feel would be the best kind of next play for you to get that started?
I feel like it would be to develop that sub producer to, you know, I have really all the work. How do I'm not looking. I shouldn't say I'm not looking. I have quotes right now that I need to get quoted out and sent out, and I've been fortunate to be in that position, and it's pretty consistent in terms of, oh my gosh, I just placed this policy, and now I got to go find somebody. Like, I have that pipeline, that strong pipeline, and so I think right now I'm somewhat limited by how much I can do as far as
Right.
quoting and writing business. And so
Totally.
the next step to that growth is that producer role to take on, and they're going to have their own network of people, right? So it's not necessarily me saying, hey, get these 3 or 4 quotes done. There'll be some of that, but I have my people, my community, and let's tap into some of their network and community of people that can accelerate this thing.
Totally. And like, how about being at one of your kids' practices or coaching practice, and you get a text like, hey, just enrolled, and you're at
Exactly.
practice.
Exactly. And practice is that much better because of it. So yeah, I just think,
you're right there, man. This is like right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. So, okay. So what would be, so this individual that you're thinking of, so you don't necessarily have to go out and recruit to get the first producer. They're already in-house.
Exactly.
Have they said like, hey, I want to get licensed?
Yeah. I mean, they're licensed. They're ready. So
they're already licensed.
Okay. Yeah. The service team is licensed. I just have the one who has the agent role desires, and so and also, it's competitive, right? Open up LinkedIn or open up anywhere else. Like, all it would take potentially for would be one agent to find her profile and say, hey, like, I got a producer, so it's just a matter of also making sure that person isn't feeling held back by me, and empowering them to achieve exactly what they want to achieve. So even just talking to you right now is eye-opening, in that I don't want that phone call of like, hey, in 2 weeks I'm done, right? Developing and empowering that person to achieve what they want to achieve is high priority.
Have you ever led a sales team before?
So by the end of my years at State Farm, I was essentially that role. Agent there was pretty hands-off, and kind of appointed me that I was leading the sales meetings, and I was the point man, I guess, of that office. And the agent, later in his career, assigned me that role. So that was I didn't do a very good job of it, but it was my first experience with that type of leadership role. Yeah. And then with at Country Financial, starting up as scratch agent with literally, like I said before, I was my first client there. So you go from this point of like, your phone doesn't ring, and you write and you quote and you write and you quote and you write, and then all of a sudden your phone starts ringing, and all of a sudden you get to a point where it's like, I have to take a step or two backwards so that I can take 5 to 10 steps forward. I need to hire somebody. I don't know if I can afford to hire somebody. I don't know, those scary moments of, and like everybody says, if you wait till you feel like you need to hire somebody, you probably waited too long. The damage has been done to a certain extent. So, kind of going through that, and then so bringing on a sales. But as far as a sales team,
when I say sales team, it could be a team of agents, but
yeah. So
that are producing.
Right. So I've led service teams, as an agent, leading service teams, but for the most part, this is a really long answer to a pretty short question.
Well, let me ask you this. you mentioned something. You said, I don't want to get that call that, hey, I'm done in 2 weeks. What did you mean
Right.
by that? You meant like bringing on an agent and going through the process and training them and
Oh,
developing them.
no, I was referring mostly to somebody that's on board right now, and making sure that they're being empowered to do the
I
things
see.
they want to do,
Got
and
it.
being conscious of, am I holding this person back to a point where they might be frustrated to say, hey, Mark, I want to sell, and you have me sitting and servicing these policies, right? So it was more a realization on my part that could be a factor if they aren't
Happening.
feeling empowered. Yeah.
Do you do one-on-ones with your team every week?
So we do quarterly. I don't. So most of what we do is, so we have a bi-weekly meeting and then a quarterly outing. So it's not scheduled. One-on-ones happen more on an as-needed basis.
Mm-hmm.
Not because that's the way it should be done or the way I want it to be done, but realistically, the one-on-ones aren't happening like they should.
Okay. So this, the talking about empowering and moving who you have forward, what do you feel like would be the best next step or the best next play for you in moving in that direction?
I think one-on-ones would be a good next step, so that those lines of communication are open, right? So that making sure that they're comfortable. What do you want from this? Are you getting what you want from this? Do you feel properly trained and prepared? Kind of that coach role of, hey, when the phone rings and the game starts, do you feel ready? Do you feel ready and prepared to talk to a client? And so I think that would be just kind of, as I'm thinking in real time here.
No, I know this isn't easy,
a
man.
great next step. Yeah.
And also, like, do you feel like that could also be a way that you could begin the process of development into that role of producer, on a weekly basis of, what's going to be your next play this week? I know that you have aspirations to produce, what's your next play this week so I can help you get there, and really let them drive the ship and taking a lot of the pressure off of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever it is that they need to do, then you can help drive them in the right direction. But it's not necessarily your choice. It's whether or not they're going to do it. And then you can decide whether they fit the role. And if you've got to go outside, you got to go outside. But if you have people with aspirations, you can start letting them drive that ship and you just guide them and lead them to the promised land.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's fantastic approach to transitioning out of that service role and into that producer role.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to take that long, right? You're talking 30, 60, 90 days to get someone really ramped up. Especially because you have it's not like you're sitting around, like you said, waiting to give quotes. Like, you've got them.
Right. Got them. Yeah.
But you also have the dilemma that a lot of business owners have, which is there's the financial dilemma. There's where do I put, I might have to take a step back for a few months as I'm moving forward. Like that's the game too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as the one-on-ones go, one objection I hear a lot to that from a coaching standpoint is time, right? And your time is busy. You wear a lot of hats. You've got a lot of things going on. So having a very specific agenda for those sessions and making them efficient as possible is really important. From a time standpoint, they shouldn't really be any longer than 20 minutes.
Right.
So you should be able to knock out your team in about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes a week. Is that something that you think is possible for you right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's that, it's putting it in the calendar, right? And protecting it and treating it as important as a new business appointment, because it is, right? It is that important to dedicate that time and not only keeping the employees that you have, but then also making sure that things are getting done and that there's growth and
Exactly.
everybody's pulling their weight, so to speak.
Totally. I mean, what do people want, like, more than ever before? We talk about this all the time on the show. It's like people want to know that they're moving forward, right? That there's something to look forward to. There's some sort of opportunity. And by having those sessions on a weekly basis, there is always that next step. There is always something for them to improve upon. So I think a good starting agenda as we talk through this, I might hold off on the KPIs just yet as far as the next play for you goes, and really keep a 2-step agenda. And if you want, I can just walk through that with you so that you've got that if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah. So the first step of it, and it's really important, is just to spend the first portion. And your sessions might only be 15 minutes in the beginning, actually.
Sure.
But 5 to 7 minutes, just going over their wins for the week. What are some of the things that have gone really well for you that you're doing really well? Client interactions for the person that wants to be a producer, maybe some trainings they've gone through, just from a win standpoint. And then the second is a little bit more of the trickier one, and really where you're going to help guide them, is what's going to be their next play for improvement that week. Like, what's the one thing that you can focus on this week to improve upon? And so the next play just has to consist of 3 things. And I'll tell you this, a lot of business owners miss this, and it makes a big deal. It sounds simple, but it's challenging. Right. And that's, they have to have what, how, and a when. Right? What are you going to do specifically this week to get better, to move towards being a producer, to grow as a service agent? What's the what? How are you going to specifically do that? Right? Like, I want to know step by step the how. And then the last one, when are you going to do that by? Right? So is it throughout the week? Is it by the next time we meet? So that the next time you meet, it's not like, oh, I didn't get to it yet.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
So, and when you're coming up with the what, you're going to get I'm not, maybe I'm unsure, or maybe we could do this or we could do that. And that's where you can jump in with your experience. You've got 10 years of experience, jumping in and guiding them and saying, hey, well, what do you think about this? Or and really guiding them to that best next step in front of them.
Yeah, no, I could see those, a meeting like that being time efficient, right? The wins for the week, is that 3 or 4 minutes, right? Hey, like,
totally.
Well, that's a pretty small fraction of that total amount of time. And then it's, as far as next play, what are we doing? How are we going to do it? And when do we want to get there? So, I think it's a great agenda. It's repeatable. It's, it's something that they know going into the meeting. These are the things we're going to talk about. And so they can have a little bit of them knowing the agenda is not going to change week to week, allows them to be better prepared for the meeting too, which is going to
100%. Yeah, totally. And then as you're doing them and you're getting better, and you start, looking at things like KPIs, and because even CSRs have KPIs, right?
Right.
And maybe you can add those in as you go, and then you can start determining that play based on based on data. But now, like, I would start and just, if I know, because we chatted a little bit beforehand, that isn't something that's currently totally in place, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need to wait for that, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think for me to make the most out of a session like this, it's, hey, this is where I'm at, and I'm not doing anything perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not necessarily losing sleep over production and things like that, but I know that I do struggle in some of the trackable things that I can. So what are we working towards? How are we going to get there? Rather than just just work and see where we end up, right? Which it's kind of easy to fall into that trap of coming to work every day and working hard and going home, right? Well, what did we accomplish today that helped us get to this goal that we're shooting for? Because I think every insurance agent knows that it's pretty easy to stay busy, but is it the right kind of busy?
Right. So. Yeah. And maybe in your first session with each team member, set a 90-day goal, from a CSR perspective, or for your potential producer. Like, in 90 days, I'd like to where do you want to be? And then over the course of those 12 weeks, you can really focus on, one play at a time to get them there.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. It's
awesome.
Funny how I preach so much of that, right? With my 13-year-old baseball players, right? Next pitch. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that was my son. Yeah. So much of it's easy to preach something and then not necessarily follow your own advice, but at the 13 level, and it is easy to get wrapped up in the error you just made, or the strikeout you just had, and having that carry over into, taking a bat at bat onto the field. But I mean, we preach next play all the time. So just the message of this podcast is something I preach and can do better of practicing next play.
That's okay. Yeah.
It's
so simple in concept, very difficult in implementation.
Yep. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But cool. I felt like this is such a good show, man. And I know we chatted a little bit beforehand, but
yeah,
I feel like this was awesome. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think just kind of hearing things for the, like the one-on-one agenda, and that's definitely a takeaway. And I'll be excited to go back and listen back, because like anything, you get ideas and you try to implement it all at once, and that usually doesn't go very well, right? But it's, hey, what's my one or two takeaways that in the next 72 hours I'm going to have a plan for and implement? So yeah, no, I found it very worthwhile. Your invitation caught me totally off guard. So but it's been a fun way to end the week.
Cool. Well, Mark, I really appreciate having you on the show. And for anyone listening that wants to reach out, is it either interested in insurance or connecting with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So I can be, you can catch me. My phone number rings to my office and to my cell phone and to my laptop. When my phone rings, it's like a fire alarm in here, but I'm at 763-684-2003. I can also be reached. What's that?
So do I have that right? 763-684-2003. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And then I'm also at mark.benzer@midcountryinsurance.com. Those are your best routes to catch me.
And that's spelled Benzer.
Correct.
Awesome. Cool. Well, listen, everyone listening, I hope that you also got valuable from the show here today. And if you want to connect with Mark, you can reach him at 763-684-2003. Thank you all so much for being here and listening. If you're on YouTube, definitely make sure to subscribe We post multiple episodes every single week. If you're on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, please leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. If anything else, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Mark, for being on the show.